gentlemen of the press, and indeed through you, I come before all Gambians, and this should not be a surprise. This moment is not just about the failure of a bill in our National Assembly. It is about something far deeper, a troubled pattern of failed leadership and betrayed public promises. I speak to you not as the leader of a political party, but as a fellow citizen, one who, like you, has witnessed our nation's long, painful journey towards justice, accountability, and democracy. The 2024 Constitutional Republic of Gambia Promulgation Bill, introduced by President Adama Barrow, has officially failed in Parliament. But this is not the first time that our nation's hope for constitutional reform has been crossed under this administration. Let us remember clearly in 2020, the Gambian people were presented with the most inclusive, transparent, and consultative constitutional process in our history. The CRC went to every corner of this country to listen to you, the people. That draft was born from your voices, your stories, your struggles. It was a people's draft, written not in isolation, but in collaboration with the citizens, experts, and civil society. Yet, it was President Adama Barrow and his government who both openly and behind the scenes led the campaign to sabotage that people-centered draft. They withdrew their support. They lobbied against it. And when the time came, their allies in Parliament killed it. The UDP and their progressive voice and other progressive voices stood in full support of the 2020 CRC draft, but we were derailed by those who pledged loyalty to a man above duty to a nation. Let us be honest, those who now champion President Barrow's 2024 draft constitution showed no such urgency when the real people draft was before us. Had they fought then with the same intensity they fight with now, the CRC draft might have become our constitution. But it didn't, and we must ask ourselves why now? Why this draft? The answer is clear. It is not about the people, it is about power. Now, 4 years later, the same administration that destroyed the people's draft returned with a new document drafted behind closed doors without public consultation and designed to serve one man's political interest, not the national interest. And when this bill reached Parliament, it was the opposition parties who stood firm, who said no to exclusion, no to manipulation, and no to self-serving government. We did not reject reform. We rejected a process that bypassed the people and undermined our democracy. Let us call this what it is: betrayal repeated. First, they rejected the constitution written by the people. Then, they tried to impose one written for themselves. Time and time, the National Assembly members under the NPP and their allies have proven themselves unreliable. They make promises they do not keep. They shake hands in public only to break trust in private. Their loyalty is not to the nation, but to political self-survival. No negotiation can survive beyond the self-reading, not when it rests on their word. Let us now forget that it was the UDP that tabled a bill to repeal. Let us not forget that it was the UDP that tabled a bill to repeal the repressive and the Progressive Public Order Act as a colonial credit used for decades to silence dissent and to silence dissent and criminalize assembly. It was the NPP, NAMS, and their allies who rejected it. That moment made one truth abundantly clear that we stand for liberty and they stand in this way. The failure of the 2024 Constitution Promulgation Bill is not merely a legislative defeat for President Adama Barrow, it is a national indictment. Barrow draft is better to remain in stock with the Gambia and African 1997 Constitution. I understand the temptation to settle for what seems like the lesser of the two evils. That may be political expedient, but it is not right. A constitution is the most important legal and moral compass of a nation. It defines who we are and what we aspire to become as a nation in the community of nations. You cannot accept a process where a president unilaterally discards a draft that reflected the collective will of the Gambian people, only to replace it with a document crafted behind closed doors by himself and his allies. The United Democratic Party remains unwavering in its conviction that constitutional reform must be people-led, transparent, and inclusive. No shortcuts, no secret drafting, no manipulations. We have not forgotten the price paid to arrive at this juncture. Many have sacrificed. Some, like Solo Sunday, gave their lives so we could dream of a new Gambia. A Gambia built on justice, rule of law, and dignity for everyone. Some, like Kaniba Kanye, have been disappeared so that we can have a Gambia whose citizens live in dignity. This is the Gambia that the United Democratic Party has always wanted. And this is the Gambia for which these people have sacrificed their lives. The Gambia that we all aspire to starts with the solid grounding in a constitution that reflects the aspirations of the people. And such a constitution, one can only be attained through widespread consultations with those who matter who matter most. We, the people. The Barrow draft neglected that most basic but inward issue. But fundamental first stake, and for that we stand opposed to him in his desire to impose his will on the people. We did not fight for change, just to watch it hijacked by those who now seek to entrench themselves in power. Let us be clear. President Barrow and his responsibility to lead the Gambia into a new constitutional era is quite. This second attempt was not a corruption. It was a confirmation of his intent to write our future in this community without our voice and without our consent. The Gambians deserve better. We must now return to the path we abandoned in 2020, the path of participatory democracy, genuine national dialogue, and constitutional legitimacy. The UDP stands ready to work with all democratic forces to revive the CRC draft with necessary updates where needed at the level of the National Assembly. Yes, always grounded in the consultation and the consensus. To the Gambian people, we say this is not the end, this is a new beginning. Let us rise, not in despair, but with renewed determination. Let us reclaim the reform agenda. Let us defend our democracy. And let us work together to build a constitution that reflects our shared goals, our deepest values, and the future of our children deserves. I want to thank you for your kind attention, and here's the statement that the United Democratic Party wishes to make on the design failure of the draft constitution, a failure that was designed by President Adolfo, because he knew all along that bringing another document to the National Assembly for discussion without really proper consultation, they knew that would fail. If the draft, 2020 draft, had been brought to the National Assembly, it would have gone to a third reading, and when it goes to a third reading, it would have got the required constitutional votes to subject it to a referendum. But because he didn't want a constitution, he can go on to draft one privately with his cabinet and think that they can impose that on the Gambian people. UDP resists any imposition on the youth of the Gambia. UDP believes that any law, particularly the Constitution, the most basic and fundamental law, cannot be an imposition on the people. It must be one that comes from the free will of the Gambian people. And we say that the Gambian people's constitution is what resonates with us, and that is what we have always stood for, and we will continue to stand for that. For several years since 1996, we are giving our lives, we have given our assets, our properties, everything we have done so that this country gets a constitution that the Gambian people deserve. We cannot allow President Adama Barrow and his APRC allies to impose on the Gambian people a constitution that we do not deserve. And I want to say that the United Democratic Party does not feel apologetic about the vote that took place in the National Assembly yesterday. It was one that is expected. And if anything happened other than that, you will feel that our National Assembly members have indeed betrayed the Gambian people. And the Honorable Minority Leader, Chief Whip, I'd like to congratulate all of you, as well as the Lord Alliance and the Honorable Member for Gambia, for really standing with the Gambian people, for really supporting the Gambian people's project and rejecting Adama Barrow's personal project. And of course the Honorable and the Honorable Member for Banjul South, who has always been a very prominent advocate for good constitution for this country, who has always been a prominent advocate of whittling executive powers and entrusting the people's representatives with the necessary mandate to make sure that their oversight functions are performed properly and effectively. And the tool to do so is a constitution which really vests our intent to effectively oversee the executive and all other institutions whose activities are subjected to their oversight function. First question, let me preface it with that, and in fact that will lead to answer for the second question. I'm sure if you follow the deliberations in the National Assembly, you will not have missed the intervention of the Honorable Member for Communities. He did say that the coalition government, or the coalition then, really have a campaign agenda, a new constitution, and that the age limit should be removed. So you have had that. And that was the campaign promises that was taken to the government. Elect us as the leaders of government. Elect President Barrow as the president of this government. And this 1997 constitution, we will do away with it. That was the electoral promise. That has not been adhered to, or that has not been fulfilled. So that is betrayal of the government people. It's betrayal of promise to the government people. Now, what we do so that we can defeat President Barrow, I think it's a question for the government people. Are you willing to be guided, or to be guided by the 1997 Constitution? Are you willing to continue living under a government that is corrupt? Are you willing to continue living under a government that is insensitive to your problems? Are you willing to live on a government that just gives false promises and does not really fulfill them? It is for you, Gambia. And we have to really work together. Forget about the personalities of any political leader and focus on the things that matter to us. And what matters is a government that really keeps its promises. A leader that keeps promises. A leader that is willing to fight corruption. A leader that is prepared to bring in a young government. You don't want too much government. And you do not want to have a president that is too powerful. After all, we are complaining about the 1997 Constitution because too much power existed in the executive. And this is what Barrow wants in his 2024 draft. And we are saying in 2020 draft, no, the executive must be private. You can exercise executive power, but there should be limitations. And the plan now is really to have executive control. They complain that yes, you don't even want to give the president the power to dismiss or to remove from office the Inspector General of Police. Yes, it is very important because police, we have seen here how the security forces have been used in suppressing political opponents in this country. Even currently they do it. They pick you up on a Friday and then you spend Saturday, spend Sunday. They say that you cannot have access to the course. So we cannot take you before the court within 72 hours. And they continue doing that. And you want us to maintain such a government? Because the Inspector General of Police is so critical in our African politics. So you want to give him absolute immunity, absolute protection. You want to ensure that his office, is independent. He can take decisions that are not informed by political considerations. But they are saying no, he should be removed. You want to appoint a minister, and you say cannot be. The National Assembly should not really investigate that person whether he is fit to appoint as a minister. And that is unthinkable in modern democracies. Go to Ghana, go to Nigeria. That's why I think Nigeria takes about 6 months before the cabinet is formed, because the ministers are subjected to National Assembly, to Senate scrutiny. In Ghana, they are subjected to National Assembly scrutiny. So that you don't bring in a drug dealer to have him as a Minister of Interior, under whom the Drug Law Enforcement Agency is placed. You want to put competent people there. You don't want to really take a lawyer and make him Minister of Health. because you have questioned the competence of the person in that ministry. So what can be done, because there's this simple majority, is that all of us must get together. We must come together and vote out this government. That is the answer. And this is what we are appealing to all of you. I'm appealing to all of you to give your vote to the Democratic candidate that will be nominated for the 2026 presidential election. And we have the pedigree. We have shown the whole world who we are and what we are. Since 1996, we have not retreated. We have been always pushing forward to push up the national agenda. That's what we have always been doing. There is nobody in this country who doubts the United Democratic stand on the only major issues, on corruption, on excessive use of executive powers, on parliamentary dormancy. We have our president have been made clear on all these things. So it will be left for you Gambian people now to decide that look, yes, the United Democratic Party has been for quite a long time. We will have the mistake of rejecting the country. Now for a second question, progress to the National Assembly, of course. That is what the people are saying. But why did they say in 2020 that Barrow and his people should have allowed that constitution to proceed to the constitution and ultimately to retirement? They are not answering that question. Why are they asking of it now? Why now? Why not then? If we are seriously concerned, and we all agree that that 2020 draft is a triple standard constitution. That is the constitution that reflects the aspirations of the Gambian people. Consultations between the Gambia and outside the Gambia was carried out. If Barrow wanted the constitution, he would have told his people, please, let this pass. In September of 2020, when he had made the nations, the state of the nations, he would have addressed the National Assembly and appealed to all of them and said, please, this draft is coming before you. I ask every member of this assembly to vote for it. On the day the bill was introduced, I went on radio to ask all members of the National Assembly to vote for it. If Barrow had done the same thing, it would have done for a second go to consideration state, and today we would have had that constitution. Today we would have been a Guitar Republic. So those who are saying that, why did they do that? Why did they not do that? Now is the time that those observations can be made. And even if this is the current situation, when that draft was rejected, those who really wanted to have a good constitution, I think the concerted effort should be to bring pressure on President Obama and his people to bring back the 2020 draft. That is what all those who are genuinely concerned, who genuinely want to have a good constitution, that should have been their approach. That should have been their efforts. And not to say, I have great respect for all of them, but I think the pressure and the approaches that we have made to me and my party for the 2024 draft, if the same approaches we have been to Barrow to bring back the 2020 draft, then they will succeed. Because all of us will have been employed. I want to answer the question. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Take a question.
So what is the replica of the 1997 constitution?
As many people believe that the 2024 draft
2024
is the replica of the 1997. Are you concerned as an opposition that we are going to election using the same constitution that people have been denied of for decades?
Well, we have been going to elections in Burkina since 1996. We have been operating under that constitution. And certainly, we have made the best use of it. Where one feels that provisions of that constitution have been applied in a way that are detrimental to your interest. In a sense, I think you, United Democratic Party, of course, whenever you feel that government is doing anything under that constitution or under any law that does not hold here with the national interest, now in that we always go to court. And that is what we'll continue to do. And indeed, when we come in, there are a lot of things to come up. But one of the most important agenda will be the constitutional reform. We have the constitution brought back to the National Assembly with, and I tell you this, with the retroactive clause in it. We'll have it, we'll leave it there, and we'll all members of the National Assembly to vote for it, so that the incumbent president then, because we say with the government, the incumbent president then, his term begins with that year, so that he doesn't go for another 2 terms. That is the promise we give to the government. We want to have that retroactive clause, we'll have it there, to show that we are not interested in clinging to power, that we are not self-perpetuating personalities. That the president who is elected at the time and who is present at the date of the coming to force of the Constitution will show to the whole world that I am not a president who is self-perpetuating. This time that I have elected me from 2026 to 2031, I accept that as my force now. Even though we are going to a third republic. And other times will be my second term. So that what they are running away from, United Democratic will be embraced. You know, you have never condoned corruption. We have always spoken against corruption. And certainly, the wars on corruption will not only be effective, but they will be implemented. There may be a review of the Anti-Corruption Act. Certainly, there may be a review of the Anti-Corruption Act, so that to make the law effective and also to have it implemented. We will not pass a law to deal with certain situations and then not provide mechanisms that will make the implementation of that law easy and effective. Since the anti-corruption bill was assented to on the 31st of July 2024, we still do not know the full list of the commissioners. We still don't know. And this is July 2025. 31st January 2024. So this is not this government is serious about corruption. And we are serious about this, about corruption. We have always fought against it. In 1996, at Vizara, I stood there and exposed the corruption of the APRC government. Then the AFPRC government, which has now transformed itself to APRC. I did it. When they swindled our funds, put it in banks in Switzerland, I spoke against it. Nobody else did that in this country. I did it. And I got documents from the courts in the UK. Got affidavits from people in Senegal. And that shows how much we are concerned about corruption in this country. And our drive to fight corruption has not weakened. If anything, is much stronger today than yesterday. I thank you and thank you very much.